What is up, folks? Stephen here from Moving to Canada, and today we're looking at all things insurance. Thousands of newcomers move to Canada every year, and for some, ensuring you have the right policy for your permit or visa is a crucial part of the process. Which is why, today, we're going to sit down with one of our trusted partners to answer some of the most common questions you have about purchasing insurance for your Canadian adventure. So, let's go meet Bob. Bob, thank you so much for sitting down with us today to answer some of the community's questions about travel and health insurance in Canada. Would you like to introduce yourself to our viewers?
Sure, thanks, Stephen. I'm the president of Best Quote Travel Insurance. We do sell insurance for the working holiday travelers to Canada. So thanks for inviting me to answer some questions.
I know that our community has tons of questions about insurance, particularly around the IEC. So do make sure you stay till the end because Bob has some special tips and tricks about how you can potentially save yourself some money. So Bob, my first question is that when some people are looking for insurance for their Canadian adventure, they might see the word travel insurance as opposed to health insurance. Can we talk a little bit about what is required and what they should actually be looking out for?
My company helps travelers that are traveling outside of Canada or travelers that are coming into Canada, hence the term Best Quote Travel Insurance. But the Canadian government asks the working holiday people to have health insurance. Specifically, they want the people to be covered for medical emergency coverage, which includes medical care, hospitalization, and repatriation. So all of the options that you find on our website, if you're getting a quote on our website, they are the types of policies that cover you for the IEC visa requirements. But the options don't include things like baggage coverage, trip cancellation, curtailment, other things that are often sold as travel insurance. The Canadian government doesn't want you to have those. They just want you to have the medical emergency coverage.
Bob, the next question I have is, does everyone who arrives in Canada on a work visa or permit need health insurance?
Yes, they do. They're only going to receive a visa at the border for the amount of time that they have on their insurance policy. This is specifically for the working holiday people. They will need to have the insurance when they arrive at the border.
So they need insurance. So what should newcomers who are coming here look for as a minimum in their policies?
Okay, well, the government does require the insurance to cover medical care, hospitalization, and repatriation benefits.
Okay.
So it's basically medical emergency coverage. So they don't require your policy to cover dental, and they don't require it to cover baggage, and they don't require it to cover lots of other things outside of those three terms that they mentioned, which is medical care, hospitalization, and repatriation. So all of the options that you find when you get a quote on our website, they do cover those requirements.
Just as a standard. You don't need to worry, they're in the policy, that's it.
That's right.
Yeah.
You can, if you're taking a look at the difference between policies, you can click on the summary button on the website and see how much each policy will cover in those areas. The policies you do see do meet the requirements.
So Bob, we have all seen those policies online that look a lot cheaper and can seem really enticing when you have the overheads of moving to a new country on your plate. What should potential buyers be cautious or aware of if they are going down that route?
There can be cheaper policies out there, depending on the country that you're from. Like Ireland, for example. Often there are cheap policies available. One thing to keep in mind is whether or not the policy is going to be refundable if you go home early, for example. A lot of companies that sell medical emergency coverage for IEC travelers from foreign countries, they make their policy non-refundable.
Yeah.
So if you do go home early, you're not going to get any of your money back. Whereas the Canadian policies are all typically refundable if you do go home early. So that is something to keep in mind when you're looking at the different options.
Okay, so if we flip that idea, there is also policies out there that are, or that seem to be very prohibitively expensive. But does that mean that the coverage is going to be miles better? Should we just pay it and be covered for, the millions of dollars that they claim they'll cover us for? Or what's the catch to this?
Well, again, some international policies, they might charge you quite a bit more for winter sports, for example. But when you take a look at it, the reason they're costing so much more money is because they're covering you for things you don't need, like heli-skiing, snowmobiling, things that you don't plan on doing.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that you're not just simply using more expensive equals better policy, because that's not necessarily the case. The reason they're more expensive is they're giving you things you don't need.
Yeah.
Sometimes, for example, they'll say, you're covered for up to $5 million, when we've never seen a single claim over $200,000.
Right.
Right? So why are you paying more for a policy that's going to give you $5 million when there's no difference between, $500,000 or $5 million?
Jumping off that answer, what would a typical claim look like, and what would an extraordinary claim look like from your own experience?
A lot of claims are under $1,000 if you have to see a doctor at a medical clinic for something. Broken bones, they start costing more money, obviously. And it can actually vary quite a bit between a collarbone that's broken here, might cost under $10,000. Another collarbone broken in a different hospital, they might end up costing $20,000, for example. Typically people would buy 100 or 200. Some people buy 500 just to have a little peace of mind.
So Bob, we're talking about buying health insurance, but some people I assume are planning on getting health insurance as part of an employment package. So surely that would just cover them for all they need, particularly if they get a job before landing in Canada, that they have health insurance, right?
Not exactly.
Okay.
If you have an employer that has their own company plan, that extra insurance that they give you is known as supplemental health insurance in Canada. And what they mean is that they're going to add some coverage to your government health insurance plan. But of course, it might take you up to 3 months to even become covered on a government health insurance plan.
Yes, okay.
And your company plan only supplements you once you have provincial medical. So you won't have any benefits under that plan until you go on provincial medical. Your employer will sign you up right away, but in some provinces like BC, it'll take 2.5 months to get coverage. And so your company plan won't kick in. But over and above that, those company plans never meet the insurance requirement under your IEC visa because they don't cover repatriation benefits. They will cover you for all the other benefits that are required, mostly because by the time you get the supplemental benefits, you're already covered under government health care.
It doesn't actually cover the needs of the visa or the permit, despite whatever they're offering.
That's right.
So Bob, just to clarify, even if someone has a job lined up before they arrive in Canada, and their employer is saying, hey, you are going to have this great insurance plan, they still need the travel insurance, the health insurance required by the government to get across, to get in.
Yes.
A lot of the people who want to move to Canada, one of the first things you see when you start researching the country is that it has a pretty robust public health system that historically people think is free, taxes aside. Does that mean that when someone arrives in Canada as a newcomer, be it a visa or a work permit, they can still potentially access this healthcare, that they can just cancel their health insurance, get their money back, and just take it all the way to the bank and be laughing?
They can apply to be covered under government health insurance as long as they have proof of employment. Full-time employment more than 20 hours per week that lasts for longer than 6 months. So if you get a letter from your employer saying you've been hired and you meet these requirements, then you can apply for provincial medical. And we always do recommend people be covered for provincial medical. So it's always good to be covered for every possibility, right? But that doesn't mean that as soon as you get covered under government health care, you can cancel your private insurance. Because government health care doesn't cover you for some of the things the Canadian government wants you covered for, like repatriation benefits, ambulance expenses. There are other things the private insurance will still cover you for, even after you've gone on provincial medical. Prescription drugs, for example, crutches and casts and wheelchairs and things like that. You'd be surprised, but provincial medical doesn't cover you for a lot of those things. but your private insurance will cover you for those. We do have the one policy. It's called the Best Quote Medec Health and Repatriation Plan. We've also built in one feature of the policy which has become quite popular, and that is if you enroll on government health insurance, if you show us that you have become accepted, our company with Lloyd's, we offer a 25% return of your premium.
What does return of premium mean for the person who is buying the policy?
Well, let's say, for example, you buy 2 years of insurance, I think 100,000 of coverage with a zero deductible, with winter sports would cost you about $1,600.
Okay.
So if you come into Canada and you've already got a job lined up, you get a letter of employment from your employer, you apply for, let's say, insurance in BC. It's going to take you 2.5 months to get on, but you'd still have 21 months of insurance left, about $1,500 or so left on your policy. We give you 25% of that back, so you're going to save a fair chunk of money. It's going to be a $200 or $300 refund.
Absolutely, and also you are then, like you said, better covered for anything that might happen because you're on GHIP.
That's really the best thing for you to do. It's the most popular plan we have.
Bob, thank you so much for sitting down with us today and letting us pick your brain on all things travel and health insurance. I found it massively interesting, and I'm sure our viewers did too. And folks, if you do want some more information and figure out where you can go and get a free instant quote for your policy, we'll of course link to Best Quote Travel Insurance down in the description of this video. That's all from me. Bob, thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephen.
Amazing, cool. There you have it, folks. Answers to some of the most common questions about insurance for your Canadian adventure. Now, like we mentioned, insurance is necessary for many of us coming to live and work in Canada. But getting insurance to tick a box seems like it might be more dangerous than it's worth. Getting the right policy for your circumstances is important, and buying the cheapest option might actually end up costing people more, as you're leaving yourself open to forking out tens of thousands of dollars if the unexpected happens. Like Bob said, Best Quote can help you compare policies from different insurance providers to make sure that you can find a policy that fits your specific needs. We'll provide a link below this video where you can go and get your free quote from Best Quote today. And as always, if you have not done so already, please like this video and subscribe to the channel, as your support helps us to keep making these videos for all of you getting ready to start your own Canadian adventure. That's all from me, folks. Until next time.